Almost a half-century ago, President and Mrs. Lady Bird Johnson called on people across the country to help make America more beautiful. Oh, what a grand event it was, the White House Conference on Natural Beauty. We talked about what might be about America's farms and its waterfronts, its cities, landscapes, and spirit. At the end of 2 days, we assembled on the White House lawn on a humid May afternoon. The reports were ready, the reporters were poised, tea and cookies were laid out. At 4 o'clock, the president was to stride from the White House, south entrance, to an open-air platform to hear what we had to say. Then the heavens opened as only they can in Washington on a late spring afternoon. The rain came down, staining the notes and the flowered hats and the cord suits. But President Johnson, nonetheless, came out on cue. He stood on the awning at the south side of the White House and raised that large arm and yelled, "Y'all come in." About 800 of the great and near great of America left their places and bolted for the mansion. White House aides scurried around the East Room, rolling back rugs and setting up chairs. Once inside, cabinet members and congressmen and concerned citizens sat around on the floor. The conferees told the President of the United States firsthand what ought to be done about natural beauty in America. They urged strong controls on strip mining. They told utility companies to get their power lines underground. They urged an urban beautification program. They proposed a program of landscape grants for the countryside. They urged increased efforts at educating their fellow citizens on what they could better understand about the environment. About a third of the conference focused on highways and roadsides. There were recommendations to ban billboards and junkyards and to improve the way highways were designed. With Lady Bird in the lead, many of the roadside recommendations became the law of the land and the lay of the land. Well, I was working for a wonderful man named Laurance Rockefeller at the time, and the president called upon him to be chairman of the conference, and he asked me and William H. White to be the co-directors. And he and I and Laurance put together the conference. All was considerable back and forth. We had representatives of the billboard industry, for instance, were there, and they expressed themselves. A lot of business was there. So we were broke up into 15 panels, and we tried to mix the panels so that there was built in, if not controversy, heated discussion. Oh yeah, there was a good spirit about the place. It was kind of an upbeat thing. This was grand that we were going to be able to report to the President of the United States directly, which is unusual. There are a lot of conferences, but not many of them get to tell the President face to face what they want him to do. And too, it was a new, exciting time, and the modern environmental movement was just starting. In fact, I think this conference had something to do with pushing it along. And I think President Johnson called this conference if not the urging of Lady Bird, with the influence of Lady Bird. One of the important things about her role by this conference, with her not only acquiescence but encouragement, we added things like design of the highways, waterfronts, farmland, transmission lines. We focused this thing in a particular niche. We said, look, people are worrying about parks and forests. We don't have to talk about that again. People are beginning now to worry about water and air pollution. We're going to worry about a design to make America more livable, but in the broad sense of how their cities look and offer recreation opportunities, how they drive on the highways. And it was with her as I say, encouragement that we did this, and that carried forward. That's probably the greatest legacy of the conference, is taking the thrust and the influence of this thing called natural beauty and broadening it into a number of areas where it had not been before. In the next decade, a dozen environmental statutes were passed: the Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, the Endangered Species Act, and they're not perfect and there are flaws, but there was a surge of action and a surge of awareness in corporate life and academic life that this environmental issue is important. And most important was this idea that this is important stuff. The President of the United States and the First Lady care about it, and a lot of Americans care about it. That was the overriding achievement, I think, of the conference.